Okay, it's going to be a review of SummerSlam 2009. Before we get going, though, just want to say rest in peace to Terry Funk, and also rest in peace to Bray Wyatt. Yeah, really bad news, and kind of weird that it came, 2 consecutive days in a row. But, Terry Funk definitely, one of the guys that gave back to the business, probably the ideal guy, for taking a younger company like ECW and just giving them credibility. I mean, time and time again, you see with movie directors, you always need that one guy that's going to give, that director credibility. And that's what, Terry Funk did for ECW and just did for, so many guys, even the Attitude Era with Mick Foley. I think he's the one that actually suggested that Mick go off the Hell in a Cell, which was a joke, but it ended up being the real life thing. But, so many, such a legend, Terry Funk. I think he made it to 79. He passed away from dementia, which definitely sucks. My grandmother died from dementia, so it runs in my family. But you would just think that it had a lot to do with, just everything, not just genetics, but so rest in peace to Terry Funk. And the Bray Wyatt news is just, devastating. Way too young. He's actually younger than me. He's 36 years old, and he passes away from, a heart condition. Apparently, it was made a lot worse because of COVID. That's what COVID does. It just, if you have a pre-existing condition, it just makes it worse. So, yeah, rest in peace to Bray Wyatt. And we're talking about someone that main evented SummerSlam multiple times. 2010, I believe he main evented it in 2020. So yeah, rest in peace to both guys. We're going to try to awkwardly transition to Los Angeles back in 2009 here. So going all the way back to August 23rd, 2009 from Los Angeles, California, the Staples Center. They do 17,129 in attendance. The buy rate is 369,000 buys. It's really tough to analyze those numbers at this time because, it's going to be more the streaming. The illegal streams are going to be more accessible year after year, going into the 2010s. The biggest event of the summer. Really, really, really cool poster here. You actually had DX almost doing like a theater-inspired, comedy segment in the opening package where they're kind of, doing pranks behind the film projector, which was, pretty funny. It was cool. One of the interesting things about this SummerSlam, they started running in LA, and I think they were running in LA from every summer until 2015. That's when they transitioned to Brooklyn. So what happened here was they actually did a lot of stuff with celebrities. Freddie Prinze Jr. actually cut a promo on Randy Orton. I think Orton attacked him, and there was this, I don't know who the girl was. She was this blonde woman. I got to say, I got to give her credit for the composure because she was actually doing like a fundraiser speech about cancer. And I think her mother actually passed away from ALS. And the fans actually started booing, during a fundraiser for cancer. So it was really weird. But at the same time, when you think about it, I don't think WWE has ever, put someone in that position before on a live pay-per-view. So, yeah, JR was even saying on his podcast that he was embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. But, it is what it is there. So let's get right down to the show. I think this is a good SummerSlam. I think this could have easily been... the best SummerSlam of the late 2010s. The only reason why we'll put 2008 over this, I thought they totally botched what could have been a really, really good match between Orton and Cena. The booking of that match is just, it just gave me a headache, man. It turned into a freak show. It did have a great crowd, though. I was surprised at how good the crowd was, even after all the shenanigans. But we're going to get right down to it. First match of the night, awesome match between Rey Mysterio and Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. I thought this was sweet. My memory's not that good for this time in WWE, but I think they did have a match at Night of Champions. They went on late in the show, and that match wasn't as good. This is just Mysterio, arguably being one of the MVPs of 2009. I think if it wasn't for Jericho, he probably would have been the MVP of this year. I mean, he was good. I mean, he looked a lot better here than he did during his push when he was doing all the Eddie tributes. So, yeah, him and Ziggler had a good match here. This was a coming out party for Ziggler. This is probably the best match Ziggler had up to this point. You heard some Let's Go Ziggler chants, but it was sweet stuff. You just saw a lot of great near falls and just, Ziggler doing some really, really good counters to Mysterio's offense here. It's as simple as that. It's just, you know what to expect, from these two guys, especially when Mysterio's at the top of his game. The ending actually came when Mysterio actually countered a gutbuster off the top rope into a Hurricanrana. So yeah, it's not an exact finish. Mysterio just delivering a regular Hurricanrana, but it was pretty cool that something you wouldn't expect to be the finish ended up being the finish. And it was just an exciting match. It just had energy. Just both guys looked really, really, really good. I forgot how good this was, but definitely probably the second best match of the night. Next up, you had MVP taking on Jack Swagger. So MVP is a babyface here. I just remember at the time, I just thought MVP just wasn't thriving as a babyface. I just thought it felt a little bit unnatural for him. When I look back at it now, I think it deserved a shot. I think MVP was so, well positioned as a heel and such a cocky, arrogant, badass heel. I really think, you were so engulfed to seeing MVP as a heel that it was just kind of tough to buy into this, transition into a babyface. But I got to say, I like what I saw here in terms of the promo with Swagger. They tried to, tell the story of, these are two guys with two totally different backgrounds. That Swagger basically had everything handed to him. He had the collegiate accolades, and he had the good upbringing, and while MVP had to struggle to survive, he had and end up going to jail. So they used the jail stuff in the storyline, which, I don't know if that aged that well, but I got to say MVP's got a ton of charisma. I think with the right backing and the right fan base, MVP as a face could have thrived. I just don't think the fan base was ready for it at this particular time. I don't know exactly what the problem was. This is something that you could really analyze and just say, all right, why is he not connecting as well as he should, with this particular audience? Because I think he did have a lot of potential, but I just think a lot of it just had to do with timing. I thought the match was good. MVP actually goes over with the Playmaker. Everything here was good. I thought Swagger looked good, but the problem is, I just don't think the fans were invested. I think anytime Jack Swagger, any sort of dialogue directed to MVP, it just, I don't know. It just didn't feel like he was saying anything with legit anger. It just came off very, very flat. And, just the reaction for MVP's moveset, it was somewhat disappointing. Maybe they just couldn't follow the opener. The opener was just so explosive that, maybe this just came off very generic, compared to the opener. All right, next we have Chris Jericho and the Big Show taking on Cryme Time. This is for the Unified Tag Team Championship. So Jericho and Big Show are the tag team champions. Jericho cuts a great promo. He felt very comfortable with Big Show on his side. It's almost like Jericho had a Napoleon complex here. He could just say anything he wanted, and he had the Big Show as protection. So in a lot of ways, I thought this was good for Jericho. I do feel like if Jericho and Edge, if Edge didn't get hurt, I think the Jericho Edge tag team had, unlimited potential. I think that would have been really cool. I mean, it felt a little bit fresh at this time to see Jericho actually, tag up with Big Show. I think it was great for both guys. I think it was good for Jericho's confidence. I think it gave Big Show, a great performer to kind of feed off of, and someone like Jericho brought the best out of him. But I think at a point, there was a lot of complacency there, especially when they were feuding with DX. But they're taking on Cryme Time here. I'm not a huge fan of the Cryme Time gimmick. I like both guys. I think both guys were really, I think they were good guys, and I wish things could have worked out for them. I just was not a big fan of this gimmick, and I understand they had some really, really good segments on pay-per-views, especially the SummerSlam 2007. They did a segment with Ron Simmons and Vince. and Vince was, annoyed by, the money. Their money catchphrase. They had this catchphrase. They were like, money, money, yeah, that money, money. But in terms of Cryme Time, I just think it's the name of the team is just such a negative. I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's a hip hop inspired tag team. I just feel like this. I think anytime, you got guys like Vince or Bruce Pritchard, trying to market a hip hop team that aren't really ingratiated in the culture. I just think it's tough. It's tough. I think you really need to understand and respect the art form to really promote a hip-hop driven tag team. I think someone like a Booker T or John Cena, guys that grew up and know the culture, would be able to book, a tag team like this a little bit better. I don't know. I just think everything about this team, it just, I think, at the time, it probably seemed a little bit fresh to do something like this in the tag team scene. But like, if you're a fan of the genre, it just felt like it almost felt like a comedy act. And I hate to use this analogy, but it almost feels like, to use a Wayne's World analogy, it almost feels like a Noah's Arcade, idea. It's hard to explain it, but if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think both guys were good though, man. I mean, Jericho, I thought he busted his ass here. I thought the match was really, really fun at some parts. I mean, you could definitely see that JTG and Shad a little bit green at certain aspects of this match, but for the most part, I thought Jericho laid out a really, really, really fun match. I thought you had a good finish here. The Walls of Jericho rope break. You had the referee distracted trying to break up the hold, and then Big Show clocks. I believe it was JTG right in the face with this. So yeah, really, really fun match. Really, really fun. It didn't get a lot of time, but I thought it was very entertaining. Next up, you had Kane taking on the Great Khali. You had Ranjin Singh, Great Khali's manager, at ringside. He played a role into this match, but yeah, kind of a nightmare of a match. This was a nice way for Kane to play a ring general here. Even though Khali is a babyface and he's coming out with that over the top music, he's still got a lot of "you can't wrestle" chants. So they went almost 10 minutes. Wow. But apparently this was not supposed to be on the show. And, why would you put a match like this on SummerSlam if you know it's going to be bad? I think at this point, it was so well documented that, you put Khali at SummerSlam, you're going to get an awful match. But they did it 3 years in a row. And you would think Kane would have had the toughest time carrying Khali to a somewhat respectable match. But the manager actually gets into the ring, and it backfires on Khali. Kane actually hits a DDT, and they get out of there. But yeah. Definitely the worst match of the night, as expected. Next up, we have DX making the return. So Shawn Michaels took off from WrestleMania until SummerSlam, and they're taking on Legacy of Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. I thought this was a good match, man. And it was really interesting how they brought Shawn back. So during Shawn's break, they did the storyline where he was taking all these different gigs as a chef. I think the opening segment, he said he was a TV repairman, but all these different. There's actually a segment in a kitchen where Triple H is trying to bring Shawn, back for SummerSlam, and he ends up kicking everybody in the kitchen. So they did some fun stuff here, but still, this is still. A lot more like the 2006 version of DX. And I think if it wasn't for Shawn, this probably would have been a nice time to turn Triple H heel. Obviously the feud with Randy Orton, I think the matches just didn't really click in 2009. So this would have been, a good opportunity to turn Triple H heel, but at the same time, the DX thing kind of freshened things up for him. So, and kind of a weird video package here. They tried to make it seem like Legacy, Cody, and Ted were ganging up on Triple H, and Triple H just needed help. And there was some really, really like somber, piano key music during the video package. So to me, this is like one example of a video package that just didn't really click. But hey, man, they tried. They tried to get Legacy over. I never really think it worked. And this is where wrestling could just be tough, man. Because when you're looking at Cody here, I'm looking at his conditioning, I'm looking at his wrestling, his selling. Like everything is like good, but it's just missing that factor where the fans really buy into these two guys as heels. And that's where wrestling can really, really be challenging. Like, can you really connect with the audience? Can you really convince the audience that you really are a threat to Triple H and Shawn Michaels? And it was tough to buy into, but they tried. Triple H and Shawn, I thought they sold their asses off for Cody and Ted. There was even some vicious slaps from Cody to Shawn, where Shawn gave some really, really cold facial expressions to Cody. So I thought that was good. Some great isolations. Just good heat, good, vintage tag team action. I mean, this is what Shawn is good at, laying out tag team matches. And, you forget, that Shawn did this every single night in the late 80s and the first 2 years in the 90s, every single night with Marty Jannetty. So no one knows how to put together, just a solid tag team, simple tag team formula than Shawn Michaels. So it was pretty good, Overall, Shawn ends up hitting the super kick on Cody after Triple H and Ted, brawl on the outside. I'm trying to think if there's anything really interesting here. But hey, it was good. I thought Cody and Ted, really, got some good offense in here. It was just simple, effective tag team formula, from both teams with the babyface team making a comeback. And, Legacy just kind of dominating a lot of different, variations of the match. So just good stuff. This is probably my favorite match of the whole trilogy here. I think some of the gimmick matches just really didn't work for me. But, I would have loved to have seen Shawn, wrestle more singles in 2009. But I think at this time, he just wanted to save his energy for, those big money matches with Undertaker. I mean, it's as simple as that. All right, next up we have Christian actually taking on William Regal for the ECW Championship. You got Ezekiel Jackson and Vladimir Kozlov coming out there with Regal. They're actually promoting Regal as the 2008 King of the Ring, which is actually a one-night only special on Raw, I believe like in May of 2008. So, so after Regal takes his robe off, he turns his back on Christian. That enables Christian to hit the Unprettier in about 8 seconds. And then there's a huge beatdown on Christian with Regal doing the Regal stretch. So, yeah, I mean, at the time, I actually thought this was a good decision. The original review, I think it's on YouTube somewhere. It was on the suspended account. But I remember this. I made the point that, trying to do a William Regal, style match after that DX match, which just had a lot of, slow-paced, isolation tag, segments. I think it would have been tough, for the crowd to really buy into that. So I thought the booking here was fine. I just think, putting Christian and Regal in that spot would have been kind of challenging. But don't get me wrong, though. I think Christian and Regal could have had a great match. But it had to be in the right spot, definitely had to be in the right type of environment. I just think that match right before the title matches, it would have been a very challenging spot, especially for a Regal, a European-style Regal match. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, so next up we have the WWE Championship match. We got Randy Orton taking on John Cena. So Orton had been champion, I guess, since... what was it? Was it the middle of June of 2009 after Batista got his another injury? So Batista's out with an injury here, and Orton finds himself champion again, taking on John Cena. This is the rematch to a feud that was never really settled in 2007. I'm not a huge fan of the Orton Cena dynamic in 2009. This is an example of just running way too many pay-per-views. So after this match, you had Breaking Point, the submission match at Breaking Point. Then you had a Hell in a Cell, and then you had the Iron Man match at Bragging Rights. So this was just a match to set up those matches. I thought you had all the elements here. You had a hot crowd. You had a great reaction for both guys. Everything got a great reaction. You know, there was boos for any time Cena punched. There was cheers for any time Orton punched. So you definitely had a legit hot crowd here. I got to say this about Orton, though. I'm kind of getting like Hogan vibes from WCW with Orton at this time. I just remember, you know, and when you think about it, it makes sense. And I would, you know, I could see the reasoning behind why Orton kind of really watered down his style. You know, when you look at Randy Orton's career at this point, you know, even going back to 2002, like if you add up all the time he missed, you know, obviously you have your downside guarantee, but you miss, you know, all those extra paydays for not wrestling. So he probably lost, you know, millions of dollars, like if you add it all up. So at this particular time, I think it was after there was an incident with Kennedy where I think he almost got injured, and it came out that Orton was really upset and he was adamant that he did not want to miss any more time because of another, you know, injury. And he had made a lot of investments and, you know, put a lot of money into, you know, into a lot of expensive things, and he could not afford to get injured. So if you notice, I think after WrestleMania 25, he really, you know, he really changed his diet. He was really skinny at this time. You know, obviously, I don't think he was taking, you know, what he was taking in the past, and a lot of tanning oil. And just, I don't know, man, like he was really high on, I would say, just diet, conditioning, facial expressions. But in terms of taking chances in the ring, I don't think Orton was going to take any chances. He just wrestled a very slow, you know, Viper-like methodical style. And, you know, some of it worked out well. I think some of Orton's facial expressions to Cena and some of the promos leading up to this thing were pretty hilarious looking back on it. But you know, the funny thing is, at this time, I think they had the triple threat the month before. And at the time, like everyone was kind of agreeing that, you know, out of Orton, Cena, and Triple H in the summer of 2009, you would take Cena as the best worker. Like he had the most explosiveness. He seemed like the most conditioned in terms of cardio and just terms of energy. And yeah, so I thought Cena really kind of hit his stride as a performer at this time, and it's a shame because I think the match had a ton of potential. It was going along great. This got about 20 minutes, and then you got one of the most frustrating, you know, endings to a match right here. So they restart the match 4 times. They gave way too much responsibility to Lillian Garcia, you know, someone that's not. Basically, they had her cut a promo in the, you know, to kind of anchor this match. And she's a ring announcer. That's not her job. I would have agreed. I remember Dirty White Boy on YouTube had this suggestion, you know, if Vince is ordering the match to restart, just bring him out. Don't let Lillian Garcia, you know, kind of direct, you know, the whole match right here. It's just, you're putting too much on her to the point where she actually fucked up, you know, some of the announcing here. She actually said the winner, and by DQ, Randy Orton. And it was actually the winner, John Cena. Randy Orton gets disqualified. So there you go with that. So Orton actually gets DQ'd. He gets counted out. He uses, and then when they restart the match the third time, he gets his foot on the rope. But I got to say this, though. Cena was so hated by some of the male demographic that a fan actually jumped in and attacked the referee. So if you want to look at it from that standpoint, like the booking of the match agitated the fans so much that someone actually jumped into the ring. And it was legit too. Like you could tell, like just the way security, you know, got him out of the ring, you could tell like that was not supposed to happen. So yeah, shades of Eddie Guerrero and Rob Van Dam with that. You know, very rarely do you have fans that run into the ring and really cause that much chaos. But all right, so they restart the match again. So Cena just looks like he doesn't know what to do. He looks confused. And then all of a sudden, he's trying to look for Randy Orton underneath the ring. Orton comes out of nowhere, hits him with like a modified RKO on the rope, and then Orton hits the clean finish for the RKO. So technically, after all the shenanigans, you basically got a clean finish with the ending here with the Orton hitting the RKO on the Cena. But I got to say, guys, I was not a big fan of this. This is my least favorite Cena and Orton match. They've had so many matches that, had so much energy, had such a great environment, and then they gave you an ending like this. I mean, the Unforgiven one with Cena's dad getting involved, I could understand why they went in that direction. Here, this just felt like a train wreck of a match, and I just don't think Lillian Garcia, I just don't think you want to, rely on her to, do that much, announcing of the restarting of the match. I just was not a big fan of it. So there we go with that. And then we get to the main event. So I'm telling you, man, this would have been a great show if they just let Orton and Cena just have, just a regular match here without all the restarting. I mean, you restart a match once, that's fine. But when you do it 2, 3, 4 times, it becomes a total, mess. All right, next up we have the tables, ladders, and chairs match for the World Heavyweight Championship. We got Jeff Hardy taking on CM Punk. So Jeff wins the belt at Night of Champions from Punk. So he gets his revenge on Punk after Punk actually cashed in on him at Extreme Rules after his ladder match with Edge. So yeah, I thought this was a great feud. This is one of the best things of 2009. It's almost like Punk gets to live out his fantasy with Raven on the mainstream level here. In some ways, this is better than any match that Punk had with Raven. They're very, very similar. Punk does have ties to Terry Funk. He wrestled Terry Funk at Glory by Honor 2, which was actually part of the Raven feud. And even back in Ring of Honor as early as 2003, I think that was the first show where Jeff Hardy and Punk were ever on the same show. That was in July of 2003. That was actually the dog collar match between CM Punk and Raven. So there's a lot of history here. At the time, Jeff, even after this match too, was having trouble with prescription drugs, apparently steroids, and the cops actually had to raid his house. So a couple weeks after this, I think Jeff was pretty much done. But he went out with a bang, though. I love this match. I think the match is incredible. This is Jeff Hardy, with his playground right here. In a lot of ways, this is CM Punk's. Punk never got to main event WrestleMania, but he does get to main event SummerSlam, so that's pretty cool. And same thing with Jeff Hardy. Jeff never got to main event WrestleMania, but they both got a chance to main event SummerSlam, and they went out with a bang. One of the best matches of the year. If you were there live, I mean, you definitely got your money's worth. The match and the aftermath really over-delivered, and if you like action, you'll love this match. Jeff, gave it 100%, tons of ladder bumps, tons of topes, just a lot of table bumps that you couldn't even see the table and they just came out of nowhere. Jeff Hardy did a swanton bomb off of, what Todd Grisham actually said the biggest ladder he'd ever seen. It was a big ass ladder. I mean, this is the type of ladder that if you set up on a house, you could just, use this ladder and, just kind of jump onto the roof. That's how big the ladder was. They did some really, really good stuff too off the ladder. There was actually a go to sleep into a sunset flip off the ladder, which looked safe. It looked good. It was, that sunset flip off the ladder could be deadly. And, Edge actually took that a lot higher than Punk did here, but it still looked pretty cool, man. Just tons of great action here. And they kind of sold it they kind of did the Hell in a Cell ending with, Jeff Hardy being, stretchered, away from the ring here. And then Jeff comes back, him and Punk brawl on top of the ladder. And, Punk actually ends up winning the belt. And Hardy falls off the ladder. So Hardy put up a great fight, but, Punk was just a little bit too much. That final bump just took a lot out of Hardy. And, the funny thing is, it was actually Todd Grisham that got the big call there. And, this was kind of like JR kind of grooming, Todd. I think Vince wanted Todd Grisham to be like the next big announcer because he kind of had like that Sports Center, look with the glasses and the hair and everything like that. So, but hey, man, I mean, Grisham, he tried. Yeah, he tried to sell it. He tried to give one of those monumental calls. I just don't think the magic was quite there. I mean, I'm not a big Grisham fan. I mean, anytime you mispronounce someone's name like Jushin Thunder Liger, he actually called him Justin Thunder Liger with Chris Benoit on commentary. And it even pissed Benoit off. He's like, Jushin, So anytime you hear Grisham, you always think of that fiasco with the alternate commentary on the Benoit DVD. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to take away from this match, though, man. Punk and Hardy, man, this is such a refreshing match for SummerSlam. You had two young guys, first main event in SummerSlam history, just going out there and tearing it up. I mean, awesome match. Like, if you were there live for that Swanton, this had to be something to see. I mean, this main event really, pushed the show over the top. And, the ending, Punk is celebrating over Hardy with the championship. He's kind of got his legs, over Hardy. And then the lights go out, and then Taker comes out of nowhere and he chokeslams Punk. So, no, I don't think Taker coming out took away from Punk in the moment here. I thought it was cool. I mean, it really made you excited to see Taker and Punk. There's a lot of mixed feelings about, how come Punk lost the belt so quickly to The Undertaker. I just don't know. I mean, Taker has come out and just said that he had never had an issue with Punk. There was this whole rumor that, Taker was not a big fan of Punk because he didn't have any respect and he didn't know how to dress or whatever the hell. But, I don't know. Maybe it was just when you look at how Punk's title reigns ended in 2008 and 2009, it was almost like, huh? Like that's how you take it off of him? The opening match at Hell in a Cell against Taker, and it was just, it felt like an extended squash. So, yeah, I mean, I thought the Punk and Taker stuff had a lot of, potential, but it wasn't until WrestleMania 29 where they really had a chance to click. But yeah, the ending is pretty cool. I mean, this is definitely one of the best main events and endings in SummerSlam history. They made the right call with the main event here. I think, there's no way DX could have followed, Undertaker coming out here. So there was rumors that, and I could have easily seen, the DX stuff getting the main event. That would have seemed logical, especially being that this was Shawn's, first match back since WrestleMania. But I don't know, putting Cody and Ted in the main event at this time, I just felt like they were very young. I just felt like the presentation of both of them, it just wasn't working to the degree that it did with Evolution. I don't know if you want to blame some of it on Orton, just blame some of it on Cody and Ted. I just think a lot of people just looked at them like they were, entitled, sons of legendary fathers that just weren't quite living up to, the legacy of their legendary fathers of, the $1 Million Man and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, at that time. But obviously, Cody has, surpassed expectations by far. Ted DiBiase at the time, I thought he was okay. I wasn't blown away by him. But at the time, though, he seemed a little bit more experienced and seasoned than Cody. But this is an example of just how tough wrestling can be. Because when you look at Cody, I mean, there's really nothing he could have done more in terms of effort, in terms of conditioning in the gym, but still, just something was just kind of missing there. So that was definitely the right call. The only thing I would change about the show is just the booking of Orton and Cena. If Orton and Cena had just had a regular match and they just didn't fuck it up with the headache of the restarting over and over again. I mean, I don't know why they did this. I think they, you know what, they got a little bit cute. I think what they were going for, they wanted to have a clean finish, but they wanted to protect Cena to get there, if that makes any sense. I think that's why they did it like that. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Orton in 2009. I'm really not. I just feel like he was really, watered down at this time. And a lot of it, you could just tell a lot of it was his own choice as well. So yeah. I'll just end it right there. But Punk and Hardy, it's an awesome match. I don't think I even did it justice with the description there. It was really, really, really cool. It was awesome stuff. I mean, say what you want about Jeff Hardy. I know he took a lot of medication and they found cocaine. I mean, you name it. They found everything except marijuana, I guess. But hey, man, no one put his body. I mean, maybe Mick Foley. I mean, other guys come to mind. But, say what you want about Jeff Hardy. The guy gave the fans it all, everything in this match. And that's what he did. Anytime there's a TLC announced and Jeff Hardy was on the marquee, he gave 100% max effort. And I got to say, man, I think Punk was great at this time. This is the biggest match Punk has had I would say pre-Money in the Bank 2011. And I got to say, man, I'm really, the Punk stuff when he still had the long hair, it aged pretty well for me. He had an aura about him that was very, very good. I don't think he really had the ego that he does now. And, you know, a lot of the promos here, just a lot of the work in the ring, I think it's aged very, very well. And he had a really, really good promo on this show, and he tied it into Hollywood about the Jeff Hardy story, and it was written and it has a feel-good ending, except, you know, I'm going to change the ending. So yeah, this was a really, really good SummerSlam. There's a couple things on this show that brought it down. You know, Kane and Khali was pretty bad, and you know, you definitely had the potential here for this to be an all-time great SummerSlam, but they kind of botched it with that Orton and Cena match. But you know, we'll end it right there. That's SummerSlam 2009, and I'm out.